Tactic 4. Engage employees in the change process. The more you can engage employees in the change process, the greater their desire will be to support and participate in the change. For some types of changes, it's effective for the managers to let go of the how and simply communicate what needs to change. In other words, focus on outcomes. It's not always necessary to tell employees exactly how to accomplish the change, but rather share the business objectives and let them determine how best to make that happen. This process transfers ownership of the solution to employees. Employee involvement and ownership naturally build desire to support the change. Employees who are involved at the beginning are much more likely to be allies at the end. Participation creates passion and commitment to success. As you consider the many different groups that will be impacted by the change, who are the movers and shakers in those groups? Who do people look to for the latest information? Who are the opinion leaders? Engaging these individuals will have a substantial impact on the overall success of the change. There are several roles that employees can play in the change process. They may be invited to participate on the design team. In this capacity, they're instrumental in developing the final solution. They may be invited to participate on the change management team. In this role, they'll serve as a spokesman for their area and can help design change management strategies for their group. They may be part of trials or pilots of the new design, allowing the project team to solicit early feedback and input for improvement. Engaging employees in the change process is a very powerful way to build support. Tactic 5. Align incentive programs. If incentive programs are in place, they must be realigned to support the desired behavior. In the workplace, for example, salespeople may be compensated for meeting specific goals or objectives. If these goals or objectives are not aligned with the change, then the incentive to continue old behaviors remains in place. Recall that one of the factors influencing desire is what's in it for me. If people determine that the change has a negative consequence for them because of the existing incentive programs, then their desire to change will be lower than if the old incentive programs were either removed completely or redesigned to support the change. A change often requires updates to performance management systems as well. Even when financial compensation isn't directly tied to the performance metrics, the behaviors of employees are strongly driven by how they are measured. If a measurement system is not aligned with the change, then employees may resist implementing changes that hinder their ability to meet their performance objectives. Frequently asked questions related to desire. Question 1. If employees support a change today, can you expect that they will always support the change? Employees may respond positively to the general idea of change, especially if they see evidence that change is necessary in an organization. Later, they may resist that same change, depending on how the change impacts them personally. Some employees may vacillate between support and opposition as they learn more about the nature of the change and what's in it for me. Question 2. Is resistance to change normal and to be expected? You may have heard the statement, resistance to change is normal. In general, I believe this statement to be true. However, you have to be careful not to extend this statement to say people are resistant to change. As a collective group, we have shown ourselves to be quite adaptable over time. To understand why resistance from an individual reflects normal human behavior, you need to consider 3 different circumstances that a person may encounter. The first circumstance is one in which a person is comfortable with the current state. They have found success and happiness in the way things are today. They may have worked hard over a long period of time to create this circumstance. The second circumstance is one in which a person is opposed to the current state. They may be experiencing failure or oppression. They most likely see the current state as a contributor to their unhappiness and would be a strong proponent for change. The third circumstance is one of indifference or neutrality. A person in this circumstance may have little invested in the current state or may be new to a situation. In this case, the person is a bystander and observer of the events unfolding around them. If you find yourself in the first circumstance, then resistance to change would be expected and would be a natural reaction to change. However, if you're in the second circumstance, you may be a change advocate. How we react to change is largely rooted in our current circumstances. Question 3. Can incentives be used to create desire? The answer depends on the individual. The notion that you can use a reward or penalty to influence desire is somewhat narrow in scope, in that many factors influence a person's choices, not just the hope for gain or the fear for loss. Not all individuals can be motivated by financial incentives. For example, in situations where a person perceives a conflict between their values and the values of the organization, they typically wouldn't respond to financial incentives. It's more effective to understand what's important to that individual through effective coaching and then build desire around those things that are meaningful to that person. Question 4. Who is the best person to manage resistance from a mid-level manager? Resistance from mid-level managers is cited as the most common area for resistance to change. Often mid-level managers have the most to lose, as they see their power or control erode in many types of change. Consider their position for a moment. They don't make strategic decisions, nor do they perform the direct day-to-day operational tasks. They typically manage people and budgets. Their span of control is directly tied to those they manage and the associated finances to run those operations. When changes are introduced that shift people or money, then some mid-level managers will gain control while others will lose. Some may see change as a reflection on their success, while others perceive change as a statement of failure. Many of these changes will impact careers. As a result, resistance from some mid-level managers is very common. Given the political nature of this level of management, only their direct supervisor or a senior manager in the chain of command can manage their resistance to change. In some cases, the primary sponsor may be in the role to assist with this process. Question 5. How do you teach change management to managers who are resistant to the change itself? Some project teams that are implementing change find it difficult to train managers and supervisors in change management when they are in the middle of a major change initiative. This quandary is understandable. Why would a manager who is resistant to change want to learn how to manage that change effectively with their employees? The solution to this problem is to separate the task into two parts. First, manage the change with the managers and supervisors. They must have awareness of the need for change and the desire to participate in the change. Second, teach them how to manage change with their employees. Anytime you put training or knowledge ahead of awareness and desire, you will be disappointed with the results. Conversely, whenever awareness and desire are present, an individual naturally seeks the knowledge of how to succeed. Summary. Multiple tactics can be used to create desire to support and participate in a change. Sponsorship by executive leaders is instrumental in this process. Executive sponsors influence desire by: first, participating actively and visibly through the entire change process. Second, building coalitions of sponsorship with key business managers. And finally, communicating directly to employees by creating energy and hope around a future state. Managers and supervisors influence desire by helping employees make sense of the change. They are instrumental in communicating what's in it for me and talking through the change with each employee. They are the translators. They help employees understand the change as it relates to their personal situation and what's important to them as individuals. Managers and supervisors are the front line when it comes to managing persistent and threatening resistance. They have the tools to act appropriately with employees who refuse to support the change. Readiness assessments help the change management team identify potential problem areas and devise special tactics that will proactively avoid resistance before problems arise. This process also helps change management teams understand the political climate and magnitude of the task at hand. Employee engagement in the change process allows employees to participate in the design, development, testing, and implementation of the final solution. Nothing builds desire faster than direct participation and ownership for the change. Incentive programs and performance management systems must be aligned with and supportive of the change. Behavior is strongly influenced by how people are measured and rewarded. The most successful change initiatives focus their efforts on the proactive steps that sponsors and managers can take to create energy and engagement around the change. Resistance is managed not as the primary activity, but as one component in a larger strategy to create desire.